Good morning, all. How y'all doing today? I hope you were able to be successful and get your review in as your take-home test for the last unit on DNA. If you did, fantastic. We'll get it all taken care of and get the grades up as soon as possible. In the meantime, I wanted to go back and look at this unit on bioethics. I think it's the next logical step of where we go. We just went through an ideal of what happens when we start messing with DNA. So it's very important that we do things in a very, very ethical manner. So hopefully you've already watched the video from Dr. Felucci, who has been in the news quite a bit lately. And then let's see what we can do with our known notes. I will try to send out an email to those or return an email to those who do not remember what topic they picked for their bioethics presentation. So if you need to be reminded, please send me an email that I will reply to so that we have a paper trail that shows that I've done that, okay? So what is bioethics? What I look at is, well, what's the big question? And a lot of it comes down to what it depends on. You know, we had already had the conversation once before about the ideal that can you be a person who believes in God and be ethical? Can you be a person who believes in God and be unethical? Can you be a person who doesn't believe in God and be ethical? And can you be a person who cannot, who doesn't believe in God and still be ethical or unethical? You know, we've already gone through that process once before, and I don't know if I need to repeat it or not, but if I do, please let me know. But when it really comes down to the amount of ethics really comes down to like the law. You know, we said, is it a crime to be speeding? And we said, well, maybe it is. Well, it depends. Well, did you get caught? If you got caught, then definitely it's a crime. Well, no, not necessarily. There may be a reason that you were speeding and they let you go. Well, if you don't get charged with anything and you don't get convicted of anything, then it's really not a crime. Yes, you broke the law, but you really didn't commit a crime. So when it really comes down to bioethics and what we call ethical behavior, there are so many different groups and cultures and groups out there that believe this or believe that or believe this and believe that we sometimes have to come up with what we consider to be a universal agreement. We just can't base it off of one thing only, because what if the next person doesn't believe that? And then what if their culture is not that way? And we have to respect that, as we start to go through the ideal of our rules of conduct, okay? I think that we as the, leaders of the free world, as we put ourselves to be as, because we're Americans, we then have to show how we can be ethical first, because you cannot stand on a soapbox and say, this is what you should do and not do it yourself. That's hypocritical, and no one will follow someone who's a hypocrite. So bioethics is a field of study. And that field of study deals with the ideal of giving ethical behavior a standard for science, looking at it from a philosophy point of view. If you can do a thing, does that mean you should do a thing? And if you should do a thing, what is the benefit? Where is it going? Can it be used for this? Can it be that? Okay. I did my undergraduate work at UTD in xenotransplantation. Okay, xenotransplantation is the ideal of taking parts from one species and genetically altering them so that you can put them in another species and they won't get rejected. Well, what's that for? Okay, well, let's say you have diabetes and you have something in your pancreas called the islets of Is. And the islets of Is a little group of cells that produce certain types of insulin. You cannot produce insulin anymore. So you're going to be on an insulin pump for the rest of your life unless you can find a way to produce insulin again. Well, what if I was able to take your genetics and put them into a pig And a pig produces about the same type of pancreas that we have, only a lot quicker. And on top of that, it produces insulin, which is very, very similar to us. But if we take and genetically alter that pig so that it produces the same genetic code that you have on its insulin, on its pancreas only, then we could take those cells, those groups of cells from that pig and transplant them into you, and you would not reject them, and then you would start producing your own insulin. And this is something that has actually been done before. The problem is that over a period of time, it does fail because we haven't quite been able to get by the way of our body rejecting those things. But then they call those things bridge to life. What does that mean? Well, you have a disease, and this is where ethics comes in. You have a disease such as AIDS, okay? And since you are an AIDS person, you do not fall under the ideal of us being able to transplant organs into you, because we can't take a healthy organ and put them into a sick person. It would just be, science considers that a waste of the organ. We cannot cure the AIDS, okay? So we have to find a way to still get you life as you go. So we come up with a different technique, maybe this xenotransplantation technique, to get you a bridge to life. And then we keep working on the AIDS until we are able to cure that. Once we are able to cure that and clear that from your system, then you now become a candidate for a human transplant. But until then, you will never be a human transplant candidate because of the genetic issues that you already have. So, why is this important? Well, the first thing that bioethics does and science does overall is give us all a greater understanding of what is out there and what can we do. Okay, here we are going through the coronavirus. Well, what's a virus? Why is this virus so different than the last virus? Why is this virus different than this virus? Why is this one more is more communicative than other types of viruses? Why does this one seems to have a higher kill rate when it comes to people with underlying conditions, but yet have other people who have no underlying conditions can be walking around with the virus in their system and have no symptoms at all and not having even issues today? This is what I mean by understanding. We want to find a way to solve this issue. And the only way that we can do that is first prepare students who will sooner or later become scientists, who will be able to make informed, thoughtful choices about what we're going to do. Then on top of that, if you look at this, geez, what was the one group out there that just never stopped working, it seemed, and always seemed to be around each other? Well, politicians. And politicians have to be able to make choices for all of us, and because they're the ones who really make the rules. Who locked us down? A judge. Okay, where did the judge get the information? He got it from scientists. Okay, so those scientists have to and be able to inform politicians, who then help to make us do what we need to do. And all of this has to be done with a respectful dialogue. You can't play the blame game here. You just can't do it. You're dealing with people's lives. You're dealing with people's livelihoods. You're dealing with all these things, all these other issues that become more ethical. And then you start running into the questions. Time is a huge question. How long do we do this? How long do we do that? Is the cure greater or does more harm than what the disease did? Could we find a way to do both at the same time? All these things are very, very thoughtful, I guess is the best word, which leads us to all have to be able to cultivate some type of critical reasoning skills. And that from the beginning of this class period, we've done these little puzzles along the way. I've always asked you questions and not giving you answers when it comes to certain things, because there are ways that I want you to learn to think for yourself. If I tell you what to think when it comes to your ethical quandaries, when it comes to solving a puzzle, when it comes to critical thinking skills or your opinion, then it does no good for me to be a teacher. My job is to teach you how to think, not what to think, okay? And there are tools to go that direction. And I think that as all of you grow from this point on to go out into the world and to become that college student or that military person, or even if you decide you want to just travel the world and, look at things for the rest of your life, there's going to come a moment, a time, a thing where you're going to have to think critically and make a choice. And I want you to be able to be able to be put in that position to do so. Now, some of that is going to involve things you know nothing about. Well, how do you figure out what that is about? You do research. And that's where this bioethical unit is going to come up. We're going to looking at what the ideal of what all this is going to be. So between now and Friday, this is Wednesday, so now and Friday, if you don't have or don't remember what your ethical question is going to be about, that topic that you picked, then please email me so I can send you that. So that on Friday, when we start talking about what it is I want you to ask, the questions and the things that I want you to start looking at from that topic, you can start making notes in that direction so that we can all get to the same place at the same time. Hope you have a good day.